Hi everyone and welcome to another Toronto real estate update. For those new to the channel, I'm a Toronto real estate agent. I guess I'm a GTA real estate agent. I haven't done a real estate update in a while. I've been waiting for news. I've been waiting for something to change other than the continuous, oh, houses are going up and up. I've been waiting for the banks or the government of Canada to increase rates. I've been waiting for something for me to make a video on, but now with nothing changing, people have been asking my opinion on what's going to happen. I'm going to show you some facts. I have data for 2019, 2021, and 22 that I'll briefly go over. I'm going to be telling you what's been happening in the January 2022 Toronto real estate market, and then I'll tell you my opinion on what you should do, what I think is going to happen, just like on the state of things. So if we jump right into it, this is like the little, market watch. They present the same data for, this is 2022, 21, 20, and 19. 2019 had a little bit of change. Something I want to talk about right at the beginning is the overnight rate. I was hoping that the Bank of Canada would increase this rate at least 25 basis points in January, but they held steady, causing what I think will be another houses will continue to increase. I don't think increasing the overnight rate will cause houses to decrease, but at least want the increases to taper off. I'll talk about that a little later. So they usually have a 220 basis point spread to the prime rate, which is what banks will lend to civilians, you and I. And if you're wondering, why banks do so well, this is probably a little bit of a side note. Take a look at this mortgage rate, 2.79, right? If we go 3 years ago, when the overnight rate was 1.75, and then the prime rate, the same 220 basis point increase, which is 3.95. Look at this. So the banks went from 1.75 to 0.25, right? 150 basis point decrease. But then look at your mortgages, 3.64. You would think it would go to 2.1, right? Just following the decrease here. But it went to 2.79. This is like a 90 basis point decrease. So the banks are doing really well. Their expenses have gone down and their income has increased because they just charge us more. So what would happen? An increase in the overnight rate would cause an increase in the prime rate, would cause an increase in mortgages. The idea is people have a certain amount that they're willing to spend on a mortgage. And the reason why houses keep going up is that people are able to afford more the cheaper the mortgage gets. So the idea is mortgage slowly increases, houses slowly taper off. I don't see a decrease unless there's some sort of like massive government intervention or cataclysmic event. We'll talk about that a little later. One thing I want to point to you why I decided to make this video, take a look at the average listings. This is the year-over-year summary, average listings and the average price. So the average price went up 28%. I've never seen something like this before. It's probably because of the lack of supply. So the active listings could be a combination of less people listing and selling their house and more sales. Could be a combination of both, but 44% decrease over last year. But I want you to take a look at this. 2022 average listings, 4,000. If we go a few years ago, 2018, 2019, average listings around 12,000. So we're down, 75% from just a few years ago. So supply is an issue. If you're wondering why people aren't selling, I can't give a good answer other than if you had a house and you're like, hey, my house went up 15% in 1 year, should I sell? And then you wait another year, you're like, hey, my house went up 28%. Why would you sell unless absolutely necessary? Your house, again, in 2022, my prediction, 15, 20% across the board. Unless something cataclysmic happens. Again, I don't think I'm allowed to say it because, the censorship, but one country might potentially be going to war with another country. The media likes to spew out this negative and this fear. I'm not sure if it's true, but if it does happen, maybe that'll affect our housing market. I can't give a good reason why that'll affect us, but it did affect the stock market. On Friday, before making this video, stocks tanked at noon. Like some stocks were down 10% just because of this potential conflict between a few countries. Not sure what to do. One reason why I think this will continue to increase is inflation. Take a look at inflation, 4.8%. I think it's a little higher, but what do I know? If we take a look at a few years ago, 2.2. We go before that, 2. That's fine. I think this is wrong. It was always a little more in my opinion. But again, who am I? This how do I go about explaining why inflation is good? Real estate, inflation is good if you have debt. Real estate usually outpaces inflation. And the more debt you have, the better inflation is for you. Because if you think about, let's put it this way. If you have $1 million loan and inflation is zero, you'll still owe that $1 million over like 20 years. But if you owe $1 million, that doesn't increase with inflation. That $1 million slowly becomes worth less and less. The same thing, same way if you have $1 million and you hold it in your bank account, it's worth less and less every year. It's the same if you owe. I do think the government is keeping inflation high. They're not doing anything to curb it because they've taken on so much debt with CERB and giving out free money and all these handouts and the economy not doing well. They are going to inflate away their debt. This is my assumption. I don't think it's an assumption. I think it's pretty, like, all the economists would agree. If you're in debt, like the governments are, inflation is good. Real estate outpaces inflation. That's why I always say try to own as much real estate as you can. I try to put as little down as possible. I think the rule of 20% is a farce. I don't know why. Like, you might pay some CMHC insurance, but I wouldn't put 20% down. My first house, I put 5% down, and the bank gave me 95% like leverage. So if you can imagine seeing these increases, considering I only put 5% down, how much money that real estate has made me. I know I've said this in a past video and I'll say it again. I think we're already at the stage. Toronto will be two classes of people. GTA will be two classes of people. Forever owners and forever renters. Looking at these prices, how many of you can afford this? I can't afford this, and I have like nine streams of income. Like, I think with one stream of income, it's hard to live in Toronto. Like, look at this. Detached 1.8%. If we go a few years ago, detached 1.1. 1.1 is doable. It's affordable for a lot of people. But like, I don't know where everyone's getting this money from. Maybe they're climbing up the property ladder. Like, their townhouses have gone up, so maybe they move from townhouse to semi-detached. Semi-detached has increased. So some of my clients went from semi to detached because they're increasing roughly at the same pace. So they're not taking on that much more debt because they're able to take the equity built on their house and go to, they might go a little further. They might go to another type of housing, I guess. Is there anything specific I want to talk about here? Yes, the days on market. So in the past, I used to say, if your house is on the market longer than 3 weeks, something's wrong. The strategy's wrong, overpriced, poor pictures, poor marketing. But now, okay, here's my proof. Average days on the market, 32. Okay, so 4 weeks. So 2018, 2019, average days on the market. If your house sold it was on the market longer than 4 weeks, something's wrong. You need to change up the strategy. Let's fast forward 13 days, 18 days. If your house is on the market longer than 2 weeks, something is wrong. It's overpriced. You need to reassess the strategy. It is pretty interesting looking at these numbers. Like, if I slowly go to last year, and then if I go to the year before, do you remember when, flashback to 2018, 2019, when everyone was saying houses were too expensive, something will happen, there'll be a crash. I heard that so often. Look at these prices. The average price, $747,000. This was affordable. There was never, ever going to be a crash when this happened, back on these prices. Everyone I know could afford it. Maybe I'm in like my own little bubble, but all my clients, everything was reasonable. Fast forward to now, 1.2. Everything changes once you get to this level. Everyone's income is not increasing at the same level. So how can people afford to save? How can people make enough to keep up with housing? I'm not too sure. I'm really not too sure. I don't really have an agenda or like a script for what I wanted to say other than just give a brief update. It is pretty discouraging. A lot of my clients don't have the income anymore to buy. So with the stress test, which is frustrating because everyone's getting tested as if they have to pay 5% on their mortgage. But for the past few years, mortgages kind of went down, but then the stress test kept testing them as if it was 5%, which didn't help. And it kicks the first-time home buyers out of the market. I'm not too sure where to go from here. It is kind of worrisome. If the Bank of Canada, if the government makes some crazy rule like they'll start taxing principal residents, I think that will devastate the housing market. Right now, if you have a principal residence, if you own a house, you live in it, Over 5 years, if you made like $100,000, you made $500,000. If you sell it, that gain is tax free. Because people are using this as like a source of income and they're flipping houses, if the government does something crazy, like start taxing your principal residence, that will, I guarantee, a huge drop the day after. I guarantee a huge drop in houses because people are using this as a tax-free income source, and it's been working. I'm not sure what to do about it. A lot of people rely on their houses as like their mortgage, as their like retirement fund, because if their house is paid off, they could do a reverse mortgage or they could sell the house and live off that income, live off that money. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they could do. Like supply is definitely an issue. Can they start building more houses? Canada brought in 400,000 new immigrants in 2021. Do we have enough new houses, like single family detached houses, to supply 400,000 plus organic growth of the population? So kids growing up, going to school, getting money, moving out. So we have to factor in that growth as well. Don't just say it's the immigrants. Like 400,000 is not a lot, but that's on top of an already short market, already short housing supply, and we have to add in organic growth on top of that. Oh man, I don't really know where to go from here, other than if you're interested in looking for houses, if you want an opinion, if you think you want to wait, don't wait. Look at people. If you were in 2018, if you were waiting, let's say the average townhouse, $797 in the 416 or in the surrounding areas. There are usually 4 times as many units available in the 905 because it's a bigger area. Let's say you're looking in the 905, 600,000. You're like, God, this is too expensive. I want to wait. If you waited a few years, now you're at a million, like 1.1. I don't think people in 4 years would have been able to save enough. And then even then you could have, if you bought 600,000, fast forward 4 years, you're 600,000, all of a sudden you have 500,000 in equity that you can use to upgrade. You can go up to here. You can go up to a semi-detached. It's called climbing the property ladder. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking at detached, that is pretty naive, might be a little hopeful. People used to be able to do it in the past, but I don't think you could do it now at all. I just suggest climbing the property ladder. People say they don't want to own condos. Some people have no choice anymore. Like this used to be the price of a semi-detached back in the day. 760, let's go back. 760 in the 905, semi-detached was 650. It's still expensive in Toronto, but there's nothing you could do there. Before I think I'm going to cut myself off before I continue rambling. I'm not good without a script. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. If you're a first-time home buyer or if you're looking to buy or sell or rent in Toronto, I am accepting new clients. Let me know if you have any questions. Tune into the next one.